Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'd love to do today is go through a book, and the book that I've selected for this episode of Jim's 5am Club is entitled Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World, a book that was published on the 18th of July 2000 by an author named Joanna Weaver. So let's see what we can take from this wonderful book and incorporate into our inventory of skills, knowledge, and potential power. Have you ever felt like you're constantly juggling responsibilities, trying to keep up with life's demands, yet deep down you crave stillness, an intimate connection with God that often gets buried under your to-do list? If so, you are not alone. Joanna Weaver's Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World speaks directly to this tension, offering a heartfelt, scripture-rooted invitation to cultivate both devotion and service in a way that honors God and nurtures one's soul. Through the stories of Mary and Martha from the Bible, Weaver beautifully unpacks the challenge that many of us face, balancing work, faith, and inner peace. It's not about choosing one over the other, but learning how to intertwine the two. So let's see what we can learn and what we can take. And the first key message to come from this book is that Jesus desires our presence more than our performance. Martha was busy preparing a meal for Jesus, but Mary, on the other hand, chose to sit at his feet and listen. This pure moment reveals that Christ values our heart's posture more than our productivity. He wants us, not just our service. We move on to talk about busyness. And once again, the message here is that busyness is not the same as godliness. Our culture glorifies being busy, but constantly running on empty does not in any way, shape, or form constitute or equate to spiritual progress or success. In fact, it often distracts us from God's voice and his presence, because worry and distraction steal our peace. Martha was worried and upset about many things. Luke 10:41. How often do we let our own anxieties steal our peace. This book reminds us that peace comes from simply resting in God, not from trying to control everything, most of which is out of our sphere of control. When it's all said and done, true service comes from a heart of worship. Martha wasn't wrong to serve, but her attitude made the difference. If our service is driven by resentment, pride, or simply obligation, it misses out and loses its spiritual depth, because true service is a flow from our heart. It comes from our heart, that first filled and is filled by God. We also talk at length in this book about prioritizing time with Jesus, because that in and of itself is what fuels our strength. Just as Mary sat at Jesus' feet, we too must prioritize time with him through prayer, worship, and scripture. When we do, we find the strength to serve without being burned out. And it's important to understand that God's love is not earned, it's given freely. Martha might have believed she needed to do more in order to be loved, but Jesus showed her otherwise. His love is not based on what we accomplish, but on who we are as his children. And along the way, we must learn to be able to say no to the lesser and to say yes to the greater. Martha's distractions kept her from experiencing what Mary did. This book helps one realize that at some point we need to say no to the unnecessary busyness and to say yes to God, to God's best for me. A Mary heart can exist in a Martha world. This isn't about becoming only Mary or only Martha. It's about cultivating a heart of worship like Mary, while fulfilling our responsibilities like Martha, with a spirit of peace and joy. And the last point to come from this book is that Jesus invites us into rest, not restless striving. Ultimately, Jesus calls us to come to him and find rest. Matthew 11:28. If our faith journey feels exhausting, we may be carrying burdens that God never intended for us to continually bear. This book is a breath of fresh air reminding us that we don't have to choose between worship and work. Instead, we can live a life where our devotion fuels our service, where stillness and productivity can coexist in the same place at the same time. Have you ever felt like Martha, overwhelmed, distracted, or exhausted? Or have you had Mary moments where you choose to simply be with Jesus despite the world's demands? Take care, everybody. Wishing you all the best on this rather cool Sydney winter's day. It's a little bit overcast today, not as pleasant as what it was earlier in the week, but we'll take every day as it is and reap the rewards. Take care, Yassas, and bye for now.